think an inherent part of being an artist is that you are a collector, a visual collector of ideas, places, memories. But quotes, literature is often really important to me. There's one quote which has always resonated for me, and it is, "The past is a foreign country, they do things differently there." And it's from a book by L.P. Hartley called The Go-Between. Hi, my name's Ed. I'm the artist behind this year's Members Handbook for English Heritage. I'm an artist based in the southwest of England. I currently live in Bath. I'm interested in architecture, landscape and historical objects. I would describe my work in 3 words as questioning, uncanny and playful. It was really exciting hearing from English Heritage. I've been a member for a fairly long time and spent much of my childhood particularly being taken around castles, country houses, historic sites of all sorts. So it was really great and something of a full circle for me to get the invitation to produce the artwork. And I suppose that the direction that I immediately latched onto was this idea that I wanted to express the variety of properties and the scope of what English Heritage does really, and create something other from it. So rather than doing a straightforward representation, I suppose, of a building in its landscape, I wanted to create an amalgam of properties, of sites that was in some way its own landscape, and something that was more engaging and something where, you know, the eye and the imagination would also be involved somehow. Bath is a really inspiring place. It's layer upon layer of different eras of building. It's a combination of the grand and quite lowly often. It was built as a resort of sorts, a spa town, but it was never fully finished, which means that you get these strange vistas of grand streets with stubby little streets running off, you know, where there should have been something beyond that, another crescent, another circus, which never quite was built. I really love to look for details. Sometimes architectural things might catch my eye, but quite often it's the play of light, it's the time of day, it's the contrast between colours and forms. There are more abstract aspects of looking, I suppose. It's layer upon layer of history where the past and the present are in constant conversation with one another. The place that's had the biggest impact on me was actually where I grew up, the house I grew up in Swaledale, a place called High Uppergarth. It was dotted with all sorts of interesting bits of history. There was a Romano-British fort, which was a sort of 5-minute walk where we'd often play. We had the whole hillside as kids to really explore and experiment in, and it was really formative for me. I've always had this sense of how buildings decay, how their uses change, what the narratives are, senses of past existences, past lives. Yeah, I mean, it went incredibly deep from quite a young age. I think the most important place that everybody should visit is Stonehenge, just because it's so moving, it's so mysterious, and yet it feels so obvious what its reason for being there is, and it's for everybody. It's really vital to visit historic places. They tell us something about ourselves in the present, but also something about the future. They're reminders of where we've come from. I think they are not necessarily fixed in their place in history. You know, history is constantly opening up new debates. it's reflecting new aspects of the present. It can remind us of past failures, past successes. It's what we build upon so that we can move forward and improve ourselves and improve our futures. So I've always been interested in models, and I think it probably comes from when I was sort of about 8 or 9. I used to love spending time working on my model railway. I was more interested in the buildings. I used to love making these card kits and constructing environments, and I think that it was a real conduit for my imagination. And latterly in my practice I've been making these scale models. Recently I've started experimenting with materials, and I've actually gone to the other end of the scale that I have normally been working on, which was sort of big, large work using collage. It was a really physical process, and I've started experimenting with gesso panels and various inks and oil paint, and actually using a scalpel to scratch back through. And it's, I always like to push myself. I always like to sort of do try and find a new way of expressing my ideas, and this just allows me to work in a finer way. And I can work with mood a lot more, I think I've found. I use music a lot when I'm working. I find that it's a fast track way of taking me to a particular place in my head. I have a really diverse taste in music. I love sharing playlists with people, mixtapes. I really miss the fact that we don't have mixtapes, cassette tapes, because that's something I did all throughout my teens as a kid. And I love curating music with people, but I also take a lot of pleasure when I get a playlist from somebody and it's really well thought out. This commission was really pushing me in new directions, and I didn't want to sort of do anything that felt too comfortable. I think because of the scope of the commission, I was dealing with buildings, objects, landscape, and figures from history. That was a huge challenge. How do I make that work? The image is about exploration, and the process of making it was also about exploration. The buildings depicted are not those colours in real life, but that wasn't the intention. I think there's something really freeing about playing with mood, playing with composition, abstracting things. I suppose in a way I was referencing travel posters. Like, I love 20th century design and graphic design, and I was referencing travel posters and graphic art of the sort of post-war period in that. I've tried to lay it out almost like a townscape with paths that connect and lead you through unexpectedly to different parts of the image and different buildings. Try to play with scale a bit, so they're not to scale at all. They don't relate to each other, and I suppose that creates a sort of interesting tension. Reference or represent objects which have really caught my eye or appealed to me. Got Bolsover.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I did actually get Bolsover, yeah, I did. No, it does work, yeah. According to this, my ideal historic home is Bolsover Castle, which I'm very happy about.